All right, and welcome back, everybody, to what is going to be session 7 of this current Ironsworn campaign. I'm, of course, Midnight Jester 8, and I've got over here Blinkin' Firefly joining me. Collectively, we play Flint and Grae. And, yeah, if you're up to speed on all the previous sessions, if you remember where we left off, it's actually yet another example of being able to stop just as things are getting interesting, and we've got a little bit of payoff to get into. But before we actually do that, I wanted to get an opportunity to talk to you, Blake, about some of the things that we probably reasonably should have established what would have been like our zero of like character creation and stuff, because I wanted to check in with you about how you felt about certain amounts of like basically how the game would. So the reason I asked this is because I was on my way out of work today and I was thinking about ways that this scene could play out. We have this moment here where you've basically opened ability to travel into the dreamlands, but it came at the cost of kind of awakening the dead in these other cells and building up an energy. They're clearly going to escape at some point. Meanwhile, there's this feeble wizard that you were just taking care of that isn't really able to take care of himself, and if you were to go in, you might leave him behind. And it all led me to wonder about, like, I like games where, like, I see this as an opportunity where we really get to see, like, what your priorities are, because you can't do everything. Like, it's kind of that moment in a Telltale game where you have to choose between one or the other. Like, I like things that go that way, but I wanted to. We never really checked in about, like, is that when you play games, or do you want to be facing those kinds of like moral dilemmas? Like, some people just want to play and have more of a like lighthearted. Like, there's black and white decisions. You can get to the end relatively cleanly. But if you're okay with it, I'd love to have moments like this where there's no clean way to get through this. One choice or another is going to have to suffer.
Definitely. I mean, no one likes to be put in these situations, but I like that kind of drama.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure to
really makes you think about your character.
Yeah, it reveals more about you as a result of it, and to me it makes a more interesting narrative, and gives you more things to explore later, and like may inform how you make choices and swear vows later in the game. So I definitely like it, but it's the type of thing that like it definitely puts you in a spot and can make some people uncomfortable. If like that's if it's more of an escapism kind of thing, like you may not be faced with like, God, there's no right answer here. Like I can't have it all, and so just make sure that you were cool with that, because that's definitely how I see this moment. Is we can use that to kind of transition into the game itself. As mentioned, we've got these things happening here where the dead are awakening, or at least some kind of magical essence is taking over their form and making their own cells. And as mentioned, this wizard can't take care of himself. I would really like it to be where like there's no solution that's going to let you both be 100% of him and not use this moment to go help out Flint.
We don't know.
At least it seems very unlikely. Maybe you can find a way to surprise us. But I was thinking something along the lines of like, particularly since we got like the dice not rolling all that well. Maybe he made this for you to travel over a tether ritual that he'd concocted inside this cell. Buko set this up for you, and it didn't quite right. I imagine one of the kind of threats, or in this situation, the kind of the thing that's making this the complications, that's the word I was really looking for, is that maybe like he's holding this open like he can't keep it up. Like there's this may be kind of a limited kind of opportunity here.
Yeah.
That was at least a way I was envisioning why that might be. Like, why can't you just and get yourselves to save yourselves first? That could be the sort of answer, is like it's a limited time offer.
Yeah, I want to be able to save him, but I don't know.
Well, you you might be able to, but at the very least, I think it should come at quite to being able to make the journey. Like, we have this window now where you might be able to go get to Flint in this world that you know is kind of crumbling apart. You have at least pretty solid reason to think he's in there based on what Muko told us last time. And
Okay.
I guess, yeah, let's transition over to the character sheets and
Okay.
let's make some real decisions. So, yeah, here we are. Yes, it is to welcome back, Introverted. You haven't caught up. That's okay. We have so we've been following a bit in the past, actually, seeing what's been going on with Grae this entire time, and how we get the two of us back together. We're kind of exploring that right now. So, yeah, this is the moment. So to reset the scene, there's the rattling of bars as these and I think it's actually otherwise pretty silent. I don't personally envision these kind of, the skeletons that were in there as, making noises and doing the like zombie kind of sounds, because they're not zombies to me anyway. Like it's just there's like a magical essence that's animating their bones. So like, they're classic kind of skeletons in a sense, but
Right.
but I don't, it's not like they're not doing the like kind of stuff. You just maybe hear kind of bones rattling against the metal and like these noises as they're like, shouldering against it and clearly going to break through these bars with just enough of their, this undead kind of strength where nothing will hold them back.
Yeah. Who knows how old those bars are?
And so
Probably oxidized over the...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we know that the wizard has been here for over 1,000 years. So clearly these cells have existed for at least that long. And this area was all sealed off, and exactly, they're probably a little bit weak. And there's, magic fueling these bones. So you hear that off to the side, and you know that clearly it's just a matter of time before they're going to break out of there, and then, at least for now, like you managed to open up this cell that you're still inside with Muko. He's weak on the floor, kind of like quivering and shaking as there's clearly some amount of like the magic that's holding open this kind of the glowing light in your pendant that he made. It's obviously connected to this strain, as you can see, just sweat going down his face, and he was already not in a great state, even though you were able to kind of soothe his wounds and patch him up. But the hum of it, he seems to be keeping open. And he turns to you and says, You must... I forget, did you give him your name? I can't remember. I feel like you did.
Yeah, I think I did.
I think you did. Yeah, and that's probably why
we'll just say it.
That's probably why we came up with your name as well. Actually, hold on. I think I screwed up and have you frozen.
By the way, sir, I'm Grae.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much. There we go. Sorry, I had your camera frozen for a bit, but that was on my end. But yeah, he'd probably turn to you and say, Grae, you must hurry. There's little time now. Enter the dreamlands and find your friends.
But what about you?
He just has like a gulp at that thought. And because I've lived a long life until this point. Maybe you can be quick enough. And you can like, I think
you were unconscious.
I think Grae can even Grae, I think you can even tell like he doesn't believe that either. Like I think you can hear in his voice that he knows he wouldn't survive that. That like they'd get to him, and there's no way you'd be fast enough. But he's saying it anyway.
Okay.
But this is your opportunity, of course. Like I want to make clear, just like when I'm playing games with anybody else in more, like I know right now I'm kind of speaking more of a game master kind of voice, even though we definitely have mutual ownership of this story and like have just as much influence over it. But I want to make clear anytime I say things like that I'm never saying it as a roadblock to things you can do. This is only like his perspective, but you are always free to try and change that. Just when a character saying no to you is not me saying no to you. I just want to make sure that's always clear.
Ethereal. Sure. Yeah. Did I ever locate the keys?
Oh, to the cell? Yes, that was how you got in to begin with, as I recall. You were looking around the
Oh,
room.
I did. Oh, okay, that's right.
You did find them.
I'm in the cell.
Yeah. So you
I'm gonna try and convince him to walk. I'm gonna be like, Muko, do you think you can walk? And I'll like, hold out my hand.
okay? So you're suggesting, like, you're implying that you would be walking with him, not like you'd be coming with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he would say that I can walk, but I can't keep this open at the same time. It takes all of my concentration.
So the only way I can get in to save Flint is if he's concentrating.
At least for this, yeah. These are the unfortunate effects of that miss on the spell.
I kind of want to somehow attack these things. How many are there?
We could. They'd probably be enough together to be, I think, a. If we were to indeed start a fight with them, they'd probably be like a dangerous threat, just all collectively. Like no, each one individually is not that big of a deal. They just have numbers, and so collectively it would be like facing a dangerous enemy. I think. Certainly something with kind of like when we were facing the worm. I believe that was how we set it. So roughly like that.
Okay.
Still basically just getting started hit point, so not too much. We're still figuring out how to deal with the moment where we left off. So yeah, that's totally an option. That could definitely allow you to maybe do it all. It'll just mean that when you assuming you solve all that and get inside, we'll just kind of narratively know that there's all the like time is just a little bit more of a crunch inside the dream realm. But it could be possible.
Well, couldn't he just like close it and then we could walk out and then turn it back on?
Well, in theory, yes. I think the way I envision it anyway is that this is like magic in this world tends to be kind of long form rituals and stuff. Like we kind of narrated over it quickly, but I imagine like it took a little while to do all of this, especially something as big as this sort of thing. So like he could, but then there may not be time before the dream realm just disappears to do it again.
That's right. It is a
oh really?
A time constraint thing.
Hold on, let me see if I somehow didn't push the update button. Thank you for it looks like I didn't update it. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. All right, it should fix itself. Thank you. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was saying it's definitely is a time constraint thing.
Yeah, that's the major thing, since there's we have this sort of big question mark on how long the dream realm is going to stick around now that since it was made out of his slumber. Now that he's awake, it's like I see it as like kind of fraying from the edges inward and slowly. It's kind of like it's like the pictures from Back to the Future. Like once you've made a choice that's gonna make it go away, there's like this rubber banding on how long you got before that affects the dream world. So
I don't see any way out of this. I don't see a way out of this where Muko lives. I just don't.
And if that's the choice you make, that's okay.
I just turn to him and say,
if that's indeed a priority for you, I think the attacking the skeletons is a way that you can do that. It's just going to make it all the more like dire. Time will just be all the more dire by the time you do get into the dream realm.
Okay.
It won't.
I'm gonna attack then.
Okay.
I'm gonna somehow. I'm just gonna.
Okay. Then let's start off just like that.
I have my hands.
You do. So I guess here is the major question for how we want to do this. We could do this as an entire, like, moment-to-moment combat like we've seen before. We could do individual moves and see how well you face against them. Or, if that's not really important to you, like, if this isn't important enough in the session, like, to really zoom in on and see moment-to-moment, we could take care of it all in one roll. And just be like, there's a battle, how does the battle go?
Okay.
So I guess I defer that to you. Like, how interested are you in seeing, like, exactly how this battle plays out? There's kind of advantages and disadvantages to both. The advantage is it takes a lot less time to do it as just a battle move. The disadvantage is, of course, you're kind of wrapped up in the results of just one roll. So if that one roll goes badly, then it all goes badly. Whereas combat, you have more of an opportunity to, like... But that being said, you've got high momentum right now. So you might be able to kind of deal with that. I defer it to you. It's just, how interested are you in really seeing this as all just like, a big combat scene versus, I just want to overcome the obstacle.
I think I want to go through the combat.
Okay.
I want to
awesome
go hit for hit.
Then let's do it. So then we're going to have you enter the fray. So this is when you enter into combat. So we already talked about the rank of the foe. It would be dangerous, which means you're going to get 2 progress every time that you get every time you inflict harm. And with that sword of yours, that is a deadly weapon. So anytime you hit, by default, you're going to be inflicting 2 harm. So total, that would mean 4 progress. Every time it hits you, it's going to inflict 2 harm on you. And now the main thing is we need to figure out, starting off this battle, who's in control. So the way we do that is we need to visualize a little bit, like, how is this going down? Are you facing off against your foe, just kind of like, you know that they're there, they know that you're there, and you just kind of come up against each other and square off? Do you move into position against an unaware foe or strike without warning, which, a little bit more from the shadows, literally using your shadow move? Or are you ambushed, which you're not ambushed, so that one's out the table. You're plenty aware of them.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they aware of me, or are they just like
thing.
mindlessly?
I think since you're in this other cell and they couldn't really see you yet, I think there's an opportunity if you wanted to kind of get on them unaware. I think that makes sense to me, that you could have a way to do that. Because, spatially it makes sense. They wouldn't have specifically seen you yet. So you may be able to get the drop on them, if that's the one you're interested in.
I don't see how, because I would have to... The only way to engage them is to come out of the cell, and then they would see me.
Yeah. I should also mention, at least, that if we're talking statistically in terms of which one will be best for you, your shadow is one of your weakest stats, whereas your heart, which is what you would be using to, like, courageously just enter combat, is your best one. So in terms of what's going to work best for you as a, like, player playing the game, just squaring off and them being aware of you is your best option anyway, because you're more courageous than you are tricky.
Okay.
So that's certainly my suggestion. Just, you come out the cell, you're kind of like bravely defending him.
Okay. Yeah, I just shout out Muko, hold that concentration, and I
nice.
Start out of the cell and just start hacking at the first thing that I see.
Well, we're gonna see
through the bars, I guess.
Well, we'll see a little bit how this plays out. I think, like, depending on the results of this roll and who has initiative, the exact way it happens may be changing a little bit. Because, like, if this goes poorly, maybe, like, right as you're getting out, like, they break through the bars, and, like, we'll see.
Okay.
But we know you tell Muko that, and let's do our first roll of the evening. So we all know we finally broke the trend of always starting the evening off with a miss. Let's see if we can continue that way. Again, you've got high momentum, so that's good that's a good thing to have as you're going into combat. All right, so I'm going to make you roll a heart roll right now, and let's see how it goes for you. Hey, look at that. Strong hit. Nailed it. You rolled a
Nice.
maximum on the die. The challenge dice were almost the minimum. You definitely roll better when it's just focusing on Grae, and like Flint is clearly the one that holds these rolls in the shitter because you do much better on your own. Strong hit, so awesome. So on a strong hit, take +2 momentum. You have initiative. So yeah, you've really got the momentum now. Let me move that up for you. You've got it almost as high as it can possibly go. So yeah, what that represents is that indeed, as you were describing, like they're probably still in the cells right now. Like you have the situation in hand for the moment. It's on you to, you're the one pressing forward. The initiative is kind of a measure of like, which side has it means like which one's a little bit more on the defense. It'll probably go back and forth a little bit, but at least for now, you're the one pressing in. So you probably did get a little bit of the drop on them. So, you said you were like, you'd probably just start like hacking away through the bars at them?
Yeah.
Okay. So that sounds to me a lot like one of the moves that you're going to make most often when you have initiative is strike. It's basically exactly what you described. Like you've got your weapon, you're striking at them. You're trying to hit them with your sword. It's pretty simple. So you have initiative. You're attacking in close quarters. Now, this means that you will be fighting with iron since you're using it with your sword, which is the one somewhat unfortunate thing. It's one of your lower stats, but you do also have initiative. Or rather, a lot of momentum on your side. So if this goes poorly, you can probably help take care of that.
Yeah.
So let's see what we got here. Starts off just hacking at skeletal limbs in these cells. I see them as like there's a whole bunch from down the line. There's just like arms reaching out from bars, especially once they see you, and just like kind of waves of them like
on both sides.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's kind of like both sides, arms reaching out, some amount of like skeletons like pushing into each other and like trying to fit themselves through the bars, but like the skull is kind of holding them back. Probably a little bit of like some of them you hear like little splintery sorts of cracks as their heads are just like trying to mash through bars and like they don't feel the pain. So well, anyway, let's see how this goes. Okay, weak hit, but that's still better than nothing. One of the dice was high enough, momentum couldn't possibly help you anyway, so don't worry about that. But on a weak hit, you inflict your harm, but you're going to lose initiative. So we need to together kind of figure out, after you manage to strike and like clash through a couple of or smash through a couple of skeletons and probably bring this magical life back out of them. Something's got to happen here that kind of makes you a little bit more on the defense. I think the most obvious thing would probably be that indeed, like, some of these ones that were trying to like just squeeze their way through the bars and like cracking their skulls to get out, like they'd... Oh, Feral, I like that idea. Sword gets stuck in a rib cage. Could definitely be something like that. Yeah, what if we use all of that together? Where like, it's not like taken from you, but it's just it's why like you're not as much just like on the attack as like you kind of have to deal with that. So I like that idea. So like sword's kind of like stuck in some of the rib cages, in the rib cage of one of them, while like on the other side of the room, like some of the skeletons start popping out of their cages with like there's probably like piece of skull that like broke off to be able to do that, and so you just have this like crater in there, but one of them starts coming at you. Real quick, before we make another move, let me just start up one of the trackers there to build up the hits in this fight. So I'm going to use one of your vow lines to represent this. So we have... Oop, wrong one. Vow number 4 is just going to represent skeleton fight. Skelefight. And we need to set that marker to be at dangerous. And then you inflicted your harm, which, as we mentioned, by default, since you're using your sword as a deadly weapon, you inflict 2 harm. Every time you inflict harm, that's 2 progress, so you've actually already done a good portion of this fight. Because you got a deadly weapon, you're doing a good job. The trick will be about regaining that initiative, which would be trickier, except you've got a lot of momentum. So I feel good about your chances here. I think this fight is going to go pretty well. Having said that, let's have it all go poorly and find out how I eat my words. I'm making the progress boxes right now. Give me a second. I guess while I'm doing that, you can perhaps answer for us. So there's that moment where, as we described, like your sword is kind of stuck in the rib cage, and one of the skeletons, or maybe a couple of them, are starting to come out the other side, damaging themselves along the way, and clearly coming at you. How do you sort of what do you do on the defense in this moment?
It's coming at me.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh jeez. I'd either be pulling on that sword as hard as I can, like just heaving, or
okay.
turning to see if I can work my hand magic again.
Okay.
But seems like those are one of the two options.
Well, the first one
those are the two options.
Sounds really easy to adjudicate, which would be like, we could frame this as like the real important thing right now is about getting that sword unstuck, which could be like, we could have you do a face danger kind of move to see, you know, can you get that out? Can you wriggle it out in time? Which to me, thankfully, sounds like one of your nice stats, or nicer stats. I could see this as an edge move where it's about kind of like the finesse of, it's getting that angle. It's less about your brute strength and like ripping it out. Though if you were a stronger person, like if you're a big beefy person, maybe that would be what you do. But if you can just get it unstuck with your edge, then you'll be ready for these people.
I say I put one foot up against the bar and and try to yank it out.
All the more why it's kind of an edge move where you have that nimbleness of like the flexibility and everything. I like it.
Flexible.
Well, let's so let's have you face danger then, and hopefully seize back the initiative. The way that works is you need a strong hit. Strong hits will get you initiative. Anything less than that, generally, it keeps initiative on the other side. So, face danger, making an edge move as you try and wrench your sword free from the stuck cage. And there it is. There's a miss. So,
no.
You have enough momentum that you could turn that into a weak hit instead of a miss, but you still wouldn't get initiative back that way, and then you'd be out like all the momentum that you've been racking up. So I don't recommend it. You're going to have to, like, it would save you a little bit of the pain right now, because obviously a miss is bad. Like, something is not going to go well. You're not going to get this sword out in time. But I think there are better uses of your momentum. I think if it doesn't get you a strong hit, you probably want to save it. So now we got to figure out what exactly does it look like when you miss here. First, we'll look to the move. You fail or your progress is undermined by a dramatic and costly turn of events. Pay the price. And yeah, I feel like the most obvious thing here is that indeed, like, by the time you wrench your sword free, and I think you do, but by the time it happens, they're on top of you. And you probably have to face some amount of getting hit here. Which unfortunately is going to cost you both, like, that they inflict 2 harm every time they hit you. Your health is at 2. Now, thankfully, you don't just like drop once your health hits 0. It's not hit points directly. It's a measure of how well you're doing, but like you can keep fighting even with health of 0. It's gonna progressively get worse and worse. You don't want that to happen. But I think some teeth are definitely gonna have to sink into like into a shoulder or something. Like as you're wrenching it free, there's probably comes right down on the bicep. And, yeah.
Ouch.
I mean, what more can you say, really? Yeah.
It burns.
Ooh, I Well, that's a question for you. Do you see that as like do these things burn when they bite you?
Maybe because I have the magic. I have the blue magic. And since they're magic, maybe
They
they're
are.
just like interacting.
We've talked about how your magic does seem to have weird interactions with other sources before. A lot of last session explored that idea. So if you like that idea of like there's some kind of like the interaction of your two magics just like burns in a way. I'm not gonna like make it do any more harm to you, but like certainly for flavor reasons, it's interesting. Like what maybe it leaves like a kind of like as if you got branded there. Like even afterwards, like you'll just see this kind of like a charred, almost like you got hit with like a lightning bolt or something. Like there's like just like charred imprints of
starts to sizzle.
yeah, like yeah. What if we see and like smell your skin bubbling a little bit,
Oh, it's
and
gotta
like
smell so bad.
yeah, as the skeletal teeth sink in. Um, yeah, I like that. Now we need to have you endure this harm, and thankfully, it is a roll like anything else. So if you endure this harm well, you could get a strong hit on it and take initiative right back. Sometimes the pain is what drives you to go back on the offense. Let's see if that happens. So when you're enduring harm, you got to roll either health or iron, whichever is higher, which is unfortunate. Your health is 0, your iron is 1. Neither is great, but as a result, we're going to be rolling your iron, and who knows? Maybe this will work well for you, or at least maybe it'll be a situation where momentum will be able to make it a strong hit. We'll see. All right, so the teeth bubble at the flesh, and Grae... All right. So it is a miss. But this is that situation as I was describing where if you really want to, momentum could turn this into a strong hit. Before you make that choice, let's talk about what it means on a miss, like whether or not that's what you want to do. So on a miss, you're gonna suffer momentum. You're gonna lose 1 from it. Whereas if you spend it, you're gonna lose like all of it. So there's a bit of a difference there. And if you are at 0 health, which you are, you need to mark either wounded or maimed, if it's unmarked, and roll on the following table. There's an entire table you'll roll on, which could lead you to have to face death, which is its own move. You don't necessarily die right there. But anyway, I just want to make sure you're aware what else on the line. No matter what, it's going to be kind of a permanent debility on you until you get it taken care of, which could very much be represented by that like bubbling bite that like clearly went in. And there's a chance if you roll really poorly that this may be very dire. So, with those stakes in mind, would you like to, instead of doing all of that, just burn all of your momentum right now? It resets back to +2 and say, no, I got a strong hit. I deal with the pain, and I'm just ready to go back on the offense.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I think the pain does kind of throw her back into that momentum.
Gotcha. Maybe it's the maybe it's because of indeed like that kind of that magical interaction that gives you that extra little juice.
Maybe.
So okay. So when we do that, we set your momentum back to its reset value, which as y'all can see on the sheet is +2. That is the default. Incidentally, if you had indeed gotten wounded, the way we represent that is your reset on momentum would go down to +1. Like every time you get one of those debilities, your momentum resets lower and lower. But we managed, because you're burning it right now, we avoid all of that. You get your strong hit, and on a strong hit on endure harm, instead of all those things I mentioned, you get to either, you have another choice here, you can either shake it off. Actually, or sorry, if your health were greater than 0, that would be an option, but it's not. If it is, you get an option to lose 1 momentum in exchange for 1 health. Like there's a way to kind of gain a little bit back. Like you grit your teeth and you just deal with it. But you have to have health to have that option. Or the other option, which is the one you have, is embrace the pain, which allows you to take 1 momentum. So right now it's not actually an option. You have to do the one you have, but
yeah,
this indeed, like, it fuels you a little bit. And so even though it reset back down, like you're building back up towards something again. The moment is on your side as there's clearly some conviction in your eyes to see this through. Yes, you can remove abilities. There are ways to do it, but it's not easy. So since you have this strong hit on it, you have the moment now to indeed you've seized initiative again. You are able to go on the offense. You can do aggressive things that are most likely to harm this enemy once more. So what does that look like? What does Grae do in this moment after the teeth finally kind of let loose? Maybe it's maybe they're kind of repulsed or something a little bit by that same magic, and it gives you that moment to wrench free. And you've got an opportunity here to have them on their heels again.
Okay. I kind of want to... I don't know. I'm still thinking about my magic hands.
Okay.
I'm like, do I want to attempt...
Let's find a way to use those if you want to get
maybe
those involved.
because I noticed that kind of recoil after they bite me. I remember my interaction with the door, and then I remember my hands, and then I remember I could try using these. Maybe both of them.
Yeah.
And just, like, I don't know how many are on me, but maybe I just like aim my hands out towards them.
Okay. So yeah, as they're like coming on towards you,
I have a sword in my hand.
Yeah, but maybe you could do kind of tucking the hilt under the thumb, like kind of holding it, but opening up your hands a little bit. I can see a way where you might be able to do that, or even like, you know, it's
maybe
not like,
one hand.
yeah, you can maybe do it
maybe
with
one
hand
hand's enough,
while the other one kind of holds others at bay or something. Yeah, I like the look of that. Now, what's always tricky about this is, of course, like we don't have like an asset to like truly represent the way your hands work, so we have to work with it on the fly. I think in the past we've used wits to represent your ability to control the magic in your hands, since it's very much a like you don't have control of this thing. So let's see. I think the thing that makes the most sense to me is a couple of options here. We could do it as a I guess we could indeed do this as like a strike that involves wits instead of one of the other rolls, because if this all works, well, I guess here's my question to you. Imagine a situation where this works exactly how you intended to. What is the effect you're trying to get here? Is it like the magic indeed like harming them? And because I had definitely envisioned a way about this where like kind of like how you were able to dispel the door, that like if you did it successfully, your hand might be able to kind of like dispel the magic that was holding them together.
Yeah, maybe I try like a different move with my hands. Like maybe I'm kind of envisioning like I'm working up this magic around my hands, and like I don't know, once enough initiative of the magic starts reeling, I make a fist that somehow I feel like that sudden clench would release that energy.
Oh, so you
somehow.
let it kind of
in like a radius,
almost
kind
like
of
build up
fashion.
as a ball, and then you squeeze into it, sort of thing.
Yeah, like.
Okay. So then, yeah.
I don't know.
I think this could definitely be considered some kind of a strike. Like we're ad hocing a little bit here, hacking the rules a bit to represent your character, which I'm more than happy to do. Okay. I think the trade-off here, since we're working with a kind of a magic that you don't have as much control over, and I think the trade-off here will be you're going to be using a better stat to strike, since it's your wits instead of your iron, but I think this will only deal the one harm instead of two, because it's not like a deadly weapon. Like you don't have enough control over this yet to be like,
okay, yeah.
I'm releasing, deadly magic blast.
Yeah.
So I think that's the trade-off there. Like your sword would do more damage if it works, but your wits are more likely to work in the first place. Does that make sense to you?
Definitely, yeah.
All right. Then let's.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen. It's just what I'm going for.
Then yeah, let's have you roll a strike with wits and see how that goes. As you try and I like the way you describe it. Like I envision them kind of like somewhat surrounding you and getting closer and closer as you build up this sort of the glowing ball in your hand, and then when you close it, hopefully it just kind of bursts in this radius around you and like blast through all of what's holding them together. We'll see. All right, wits roll. Probably don't have the momentum to save you anymore, so let's see. Oh yeah, that is a miss, unfortunately.
Damn it. Yep, I'm just not
Well,
skilled enough. Don't know what I'm doing.
well, that one, the challenge dice just happened to roll pretty high, and yeah, challenge dice rolled high. You rolled a little bit low. Combination of things. No momentum to save you. All sorts of stuff. So, on a miss on a strike, your attack fails and you must pay the price. The enemy has initiative. So, again, we could certainly roll to find out if something especially interesting or unexpected happens, but the most obvious thing here would be, like, yeah, you managed to... Either you... I guess, what do you prefer? Like, you do it, but it doesn't seem to have any effect, or maybe they get to you before you have time to really pull off what you were intending?
The second one.
Yeah, like, it was this great idea, but...
I don't want to think that I failed.
Yeah.
Like, with the magic.
Exactly.
So they came upon me too soon, and I just didn't have time.
It's always nice to frame it that way, that, like, you know, our characters are competent. It's... Even though we might fail to do what we want a lot in this game, very rarely, I think, should it ever be framed as, like, our failing so much as the situation failing us. Because it helps keep that narrative in the way it should. We are heroes.
Because in Grae's soul, she knew in that moment she could do it.
Yeah.
I
Something told you. I think that maybe they looked like they were more lumbering and waiting than they were, and then, like, as soon as you kind of brought your attention off of it, like, there was like this sudden burst of movement or something, and you didn't have as much time as you thought. Like, it was like you were fainted almost. Now here's the problem here. Paying the price, the most obvious thing here would again be you getting hurt. It doesn't have to be that, though. Maybe we can together think of something else that also makes sense. For instance, paying the price could certainly hurt Muko.
Yeah, I was thinking about
Muko. Or, yeah, what if that's the thing? Instead, like, you're building up this energy to try and attack them, and these skeletons recognize, like, that's an energy that could be harmful. They don't approach you. They go off. They maybe hear a moan or something from Muko in the cell. They start darting after him instead.
Oh, crap.
And yeah, I think that's the price here, is Muko's going to get it. Because in this moment, you weren't as protective of him.
I should have just listened to it.
So the question is, how do we represent this? Because he's not a player character. We don't do a full-on, like, making him do rolls and give him a health track and everything like that.
Or disarm introverted.
We could. I certainly like the added tension of it being Muko, since that's indeed one of the big stakes of this combat. But we have co-authorship here. If you'd rather just be disarmed and you're not as interested in it turning to Muko, like, you have the right to exert that influence as well. So what do you think?
Yeah, I don't want to lose my sword.
Priorities. The real priorities. Okay. So I think Muko is I think you get one for free, maybe. Like, he's not dead yet, and he can, like, maybe keep this spell open. But I think if something like that were to happen again, I think that's it for Muko, and as a result, probably the spell.
I can't lose that.
So you've lost initiative. Yes. Furiel. Everything you said, correct. So you don't have initiative, so again, you're not really allowed to be on the offensive here. There is a move to still deal damage a little bit more on the defensive. It's called Clash. But it represents more of like you kind of like striking back at them as they're attacking you and like kind of just feebly defending yourself. But I guess the question for you really is like, in this moment where the situation is not really in your hands, what are you trying to do here?
I feel like I would shout something to Muko, and I don't know what I would shout. It'd probably just be like, Muko, help! But, yeah.
I just imagine Muko just being like, me help you? What? It's like just being torn apart by skeletons. Yeah, I'll get right on that.
I feel like that's what I would do. Getting a bit desperate.
Maybe
he's holding concentration with one magic hand, and maybe he gets free. I don't know.
I don't expect he'll be able to really provide, based on how we've described him and his whole situation before. I don't expect he'll really be much in the way of a combatant at the moment.
But Muko,
you could certainly try and if magic helps those who help themselves. You could certainly try and like, I don't know, like maybe be like trying to pull them off of him or get their attention back. Like there's certainly options here.
Okay. I thought that said the dreamy mage guy.
Oh, it was so dreamy, that 1,000-year-old. I'm simply trying to think in terms of like things that'll eventually lead to rolls, because like, well, you can absolutely be shouting out to him like that. I think just happens. I don't think there's really any stakes or like thing to roll on for that.
Okay. So yeah, I do shout out to him. And obviously he can't help. Yeah. So, and they're going after him now. Are they all going after him, or?
I think there's probably a split there. Like, there's probably some amount that are after him and some that are kind of more towards you and probably getting more in your face here. Turning around and like maybe it's like one of the ones that you had hacked at before is kind of like on the ground, like with no legs, but like kind of reaching at your legs, like doing that whole classic thing.
Okay.
It's like clawing at you with bony, sharp claws.
Okay, so the ones that are on me, I think I just wait. How did I have 0 health? When did that happen?
You started with 2, but you wound up suffering some harm, and they do 2 at a time based on just the challenge rating they have.
Okay. I don't know. At this point, if my health is at 0 and they're going after both of us, what did I have to do to go through this portal thing?
Ooh, I like that question, because indeed, one of the things we know is that Ironsworn is not a game that cares if you defeat enemies. You don't get any experience for it or anything. You just have to. The only thing you gain is survival, and if your survival means going through to the other side, so I don't think we firmly established exactly what. I think the implication was that at this point, with it held open, it was in your control to travel over with this pendant you had. So I, as the benevolent sort of game master that I like to be, even though again we're co-GMs on this, it's a co-op campaign, but my leaning in the always wanting to be the devil on players' shoulders to push them towards mean things is, I would say, if you want to go over to the other side, I don't think you even need a roll for that. The price you pay is just leaving him to be slaughtered.
Yeah,
but the devil is always willing to give you that deal.
Okay.
And as a player, I should say, like and that totally makes sense to me. I think that is a perfectly valid choice. as you know, it's very dangerous right now when you have 0 health. And
Yeah.
if he, yeah,
And I wonder, does he have to, once I get through, does he still have to hold that concentration? Maybe they don't get him. Like maybe he can let go of that concentration once I'm through, and then
I think he can. I think it's the concentration is about keeping it open, but as for what will happen to him afterwards, that'll be something that we may find out later. Like we won't see that once you go through. We stop seeing that scene, and who knows what happened to Muko until we find out. If we specifically try to find out,
I'll just shout to him and be like, "Muko, I can't fend them off. I'm going through."
Okay, I love it.
I'm sorry.
I don't think you get to hear his response. Well, I guess, would you specifically wait until he responds before doing it, or are you saying that?
Maybe a little bit, but just maybe for a slight second. But I'm going through regardless. So,
right.
Yeah.
I think that I just, for the amount of time that sounds like, I don't think he would be able to formulate much more than still sort of the kind of grunts and moans of trying to fend off these skeletons. I don't think he's in a state to put together too much more than that. So I think you hear that, the sort of and it's probably about it before traveling over to the other side.
Oh.
And yeah.
That's not good for
who knows what happened to Muko.
my morality.
But as a result, well, oh wait, no, I guess you couldn't do that. I was gonna say there's a move that you could try and just end the fight right here, and that could be the result of a miss, but you actually can't because you have to get a strong hit before you can make an end the fight move. But
we have to end the fight.
Well, no, you don't. I was thinking as another option of how to represent this, but you don't have to. This is totally another valid way to do it. We had the narrative on our side for a way that you could end this fight in this way. It's not the most wonderful feeling ending, but you're able to escape with your life, which ultimately is the most important. But we get this moment here. Hold on, I'm just doing this on the wrong one. I want to know, as we see, Grae shift through the other side and enter this dark. Oh, you know what's going to be perfect about this? There is some amount of being able to, the Dreamlands we've seen has some amount of view of the physical realm. Mm-hmm. So I guess you would still be able to see what happens. I don't think. So here's the thing. We've seen it before from Flint's point of view, but Flint, of course, has the sighted asset. He's got this ability to kind of see beyond the veil. So I personally think that Flint should have an easier time seeing both sides at once than somebody who's not sighted. But maybe you have a hazier sort of view of what's going on in the physical realm. And if it were in order to make out things clearly from the physical world, it would be more of kind of it would be more up to chance.
Okay.
But we make it through to the other side, and I want to know, how does Grae take this moment? You have your safety, and there's no longer anything attacking you here in the dream realms, but is this the sort of thing where you've hardened yourself to it and move on? Do you have to take a moment here? What does this look like?
I honestly, I feel like Grae wouldn't see it, but
okay,
I think she'd be a little disoriented from switching over.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I do like the idea of her not seeing the other side,
okay,
but Flint
then
seeing.
Let's totally have it that way. That you can either see one side or the other. Whichever side you're on, that's the world you see.
Okay.
I like that. Which maybe saves you from a very unsettling vision right now.
Yeah, it's probably best that I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the worst, but once cross over, I catch my breath and I'm like, okay, Flint, I gotta find Flint.
Do you think this is a situation that would like, do you think that thinking about it is enough of a hardship that you would indeed take a small hit to your spirit? Like, does this cause you stress?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it does.
Then let's indeed represent that by giving you one hit to your spirit, and then we're gonna do an endure stress roll to see like how well do you take that. So I'm gonna move that down for you, down to 3. So when you endure stress, you either roll spirit or heart, whichever is higher. In this case, they're exactly the same, so it doesn't matter. So we're gonna make you do a roll with a +3, and let's see how well you take it. Okay, it's a weak hit, which just means we're done looking at that. Like, it's nothing more happens as a result. Like, it hurts, you feel that pain for a moment, and it adds up in that sort of just the ongoing stress of being an adventurer. It wears you down, but otherwise it doesn't get any worse than that, and there's no like nothing especially good. Like, you don't learn and take it better, and it's just we move on. That's the end of that.
Okay.
So we haven't seen the Dream Realms since the moment where where Muko woke up and this place started fraying. So let's see how. I'm curious how we can represent that. Like, what might look different about this place as reality itself in how it exists here is like crumbling. Like, what might that look like? Just trying to think of like physically like how you'd see that. Oh, go for it.
I imagine it looks like all one shade.
Oh, like the the color is starting to fade.
Yeah, like a grayish kind of.
I like that
shade.
where it's like it's starting to desaturate a little bit. Where like as the time goes by, more and more of because I imagine the Dream Realm used to be almost like extra saturated, like very vibrant in terms of color and just weird, and everything is exaggerated. But yeah, now that it's coming apart, like that's maybe the first effects we're seeing is like all the color starts draining from this place, and maybe some amount of the light as well.
Oh.
Maybe it's getting a little bit dimmer and like hazier in the sense where it's like almost like everything has just a little bit of a blur to it now.
Yeah.
So yeah, you come here and you see what basically looks like where you were. You're in the prison, but it has that kind of appearance to everything. Now you know that Flint is somewhere in this realm. I personally think, like, just as a player, in terms of how much screen time I want to give this, I don't like. In order for Flint to get where he was, we did this whole big cave exploration. We did it very moment by moment. But in the same way as how we can gloss over a battle as just one roll, I, as a player, kind of want to gloss over, like, you getting to Flint as just one roll. Because to me, that's not the important part. The important part was you getting to the dream world so that we can meet up. I don't really care about every step you take, unless that's something you really want to see and, like, really draw out the journey of getting to him.
I know. I almost feel like he would be waiting because, like he could see us, right? But we couldn't see him.
He was, at least physically in this location, when we left him behind, he was in a very different spot.
Okay.
He took a very different route. So, like, he probably wouldn't be just right here looking. Unless you think that the magic that it had, like, maybe there's a way that brings you to his location as well. Like, if you had a strong bond with him or something. But to be honest, I don't know that especially after the abandonment, I don't know that we have that bond.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And
yeah, let's just gloss over like she.
Yeah, we can do it all in just like in just one roll.
Yeah.
To be like, how well does the journey go as you make your way to me?
He can't be too far, right?
No, and when we do it this way, we're basically deciding as players the exact distance doesn't matter. It's like when we're making the choice to cut to a new scene where maybe there's a quick montage of you going through a couple of environments, but then the next thing we really explore is when you find me, and all the steps along the way didn't matter as much. Importantly, though, all the more reason to not have you just come to me. You have that vow about find out what happened to Flint, so at the very least, making that journey will be another milestone along the way, which will be helpful. So let's make this roll. Let's finally get our characters back together so that we can move from there and see how we escape this dream realm and what that looks like, because it's fading away.
Yeah, we gotta get out of there.
We do. So I think that this is, rather than do this as you undertaking a journey, which would be its whole big track, or delving through this dungeon like my character's been doing, there's kind of a supplemental set of rules we've been using in the sessions you weren't here that make this a little bit more elaborate. But rather than do all of that, let's just do a catch-all face danger. Just, there's a danger of you spelunking through these caverns and mines, and we're just going to wrap it all up in that. And let's see. This is one of those moves that you can use it with any of your stats depending on what makes most sense for the move. Is this about your speed, agility, and precision, in which case it's edge? Is this about your courage, which would make it heart? Is it about your aggressive action, forceful defense, strength, or endurance, which is iron? Your deception, stealth, or trickery, which is shadow? Or your expertise, insight, and observation with his wits?
I want to say heart.
So which
Because it,
yeah, just tell us why. What's hard about it to you?
just the situation, and just finally, although she did kind of get more stressed after crossing over, so maybe not.
She did, but you took it, and it's not like bringing you down any more than that. Like it was
Right,
a moment,
okay.
but at least mechanically it's kind of passed, sort of.
Yeah.
I asked that only
I feel
to
like heart, yeah, because
it's charm, loyalty, or courage, and perhaps it's
courage
indeed
is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that courage to this is an unfamiliar, weird place that and going into the heart of this environment that is crumbling. And we know, as we described, you have a tether out of here. And I get that. I buy the courage as this place is falling apart and it could trap you inside. But it's your courage leading you on to keep going even with that you got to find him and get him out.
Yeah.
And
I feel like I even give myself that quick pep talk.
Yeah.
Courage, Grae. We got to find him. Let's go. We can't waste time.
Just that sort of as much as you might want to, don't pull back out until you find him. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the dice will hopefully like that too. We get to use your best stat that way. So here we go. Grae, we're gonna make a heart move and wrap all of it up in that one roll and see, when you find me, because I think no matter what, I think even on a miss, you're going to find me. Because as players, at least speaking for myself, I want that to happen. The whole point is to get us back together. So a miss won't mean that. It's just there's going to be some other factor involved when you do, if it's a miss. And hopefully it's not. Let's see.
Good night, Furiel.
Good night. There we go. Strong hit. Look at that. So, no worries there. You indeed, you summon up that courage with the best of them. On a strong hit, you're successful and you take +1 momentum. So there we go. Let's move that up for you. Boop. All the way up to a +4. Starting to build that up again. And, yeah. So, we have that montage of you, spelunking through these caverns. We see some of the same sights that we saw Flint go through. There's the moments where we see you rappelling down some of the rocks where you last left me behind. Like, I went that way. So we see you doing that. Potentially we see the part where you're crossing past these like calderas that with weird kind of goos inside. You squeeze your way through this section where there was all these rocks that had collapsed in from a ceiling, and kind of have to clamber over them and squeeze through a tight opening, but make it through to the other side. And not long after that, I think we cut over to see Flint at the hieroglyphics, kind of piecing together the history of this place, and he hears a noise and turns over, and we see Grae's face there with the glowing kind of pendant around your neck. Or I assume you're like wearing it around your neck. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah. We see the glowing empty bottle around your neck. That's like and I think Flint would probably be able to see the sort of like spiritual tether that you probably can't see, that's like coming out of this bottle, and like he sees the way like that tether crosses over to the other side. Like there's a part of it that's like very vibrant and clear and seems almost physical in its light over here, and then it like passes through this sort of hole into the other part of reality and gets kind of fainter, and like you have to look through the mist to see it. And nice. Flint at this moment, I think would like drop. I think he'd drop to his knees and say, "Grae, I can't believe you came after me. I'm so sorry. I can't vouch for what I did. Please forgive me."
I feel like I would just say, we'll talk about it later, Flint. Right now, we don't have time. I need you to get inside this bottle.
Don't have time. What do you mean? What happened?
The dream world is deteriorating.
Like, I said, don't have time. Like, get in the goddamn bottle.
I say you're in danger. The dream world's deteriorating.
I don't have a body out there.
Oh, sorry.
No, they ravaged my body. I have nothing to go back to. What do you mean this is deteriorating?
I met someone who is the creator of this world accidentally. I can't explain it. I'll explain to you later. I don't even know if he's still alive, but I woke him up from a deep sleep, and because I woke him up, it's falling apart.
I think certainly if we made you suffer stress from what happened to Muko, I think the like revelation that he doesn't have anywhere else to go to in this world, that the one thing keeping him alive is coming apart, that sounds like it would have some stress on him. Now, right now, let me go over to Flint's character sheet. We have... Oh, balls. I said that before I even realized he doesn't have any spirit left at the moment. We've been kind of representing, like, since he doesn't have a body, like, we've been using his spirit kind of like health here, where, like, it's really just his mental energy that's keeping him together. Because his health is wrapped up in his body, and that's gone. His spirit is apparently down to 0 as well, though, so that hit to his spirit is going to be... It's going to hit his momentum instead. I believe is the way that works. Let's take a look. Unless... no, never mind. We're both player characters. I don't want to break out the rules to, like... We shouldn't generally be making moves on each other. The game kind of mentions that it's not really meant for that in mind. I was thinking, like, maybe we could find a way to represent, like, oh, maybe you can break the news in a gentle way, and we'll see how well that happens. But, like, I think we should generally just defer to the role-playing and just... I think no matter what, that's hard news to take. So my spirit is 0, so I will suffer 1 momentum, and then I need to roll either my spirit or heart, whichever is higher, which thankfully I've got a lot of heart. So hold on, let me move that down and see what happens to Flint when he finds out his world's on fire. This is a big problem. All right. Thankfully, Flint is made of some stony material. He gets a strong hit on that, and as a result, gets to choose one. He can either, or it's like the endure harm. I have one option that I would have if I weren't at 0, but I am. So instead, my only option is embrace the darkness, take +1 momentum. So I get that momentum back, but the cost is I get it by embracing the darkness. So I think this is a moment where we see Flint get a little bit nihilistic and accepting that like I suppose my death already came for me, and if this is the fate's way to drag me back and take what it could not get, then it was meant to be. But I will not give it so easily. Let's give it a fight. So you told him to get inside the bottle, huh?
Yeah. It's the only way. It's the only hope of... It's the only chance for hope for your survival.
Oh, before we forget, I think you've hit your waypoint on, you found out what happened to Flint, so let's give you your progress on that. And
Yay.
The thing is, this is, you've reached the thing you were looking for, which is generally when you would make the, we would finish out your vow right here. We'd make a progress move and see how well it works. You've got pretty good odds for it to go well for you. Could be better, could be worse. You could, in theory, keep trying to work on this before, formalizing the vow is complete. My only issue is I'm not sure, what else we could do to kind of, keep working towards this. You found Flint, so,
yeah.
what more is there to really find out? I mean, it's specifically find out what happened to Flint. So maybe it's a matter of, maybe it's a matter of waiting until you have an opportunity for him to tell the story in more detail of what specifically happens.
Yeah, maybe. Because I don't think I know all the details. From his perspective, I don't know.
Okay. So then, we'll hold off on closing out that vow until that's the thing that we're still waiting on for that to close it out. Is what you found him, but you still don't know what happened to him.
Right.
Which just leaves us with this little sticky situation of how do we get Flint in the bottle? Because how do we represent that? Because
Muko never said.
And Flint doesn't otherwise... Well, man, Muko was just trying to get you over there. He didn't have a great way. I mean, Flint, otherwise, he's not he doesn't have magic. He can see kind of beyond the veil and see more magical things than other people can. But otherwise, he certainly wouldn't know. I think he'd be turning to you in this moment and being like, how do I get in the bottle?
What if he does see that the bottle is brighter than everything else around him, that is actually kind of has a light that is enticing, like
a moth to a
yeah.
I thought of a way to maybe represent this with the mechanics in it, how to mechanically work through this. What if we do this as a gather information? We've done this before where he kind of scrutinizes magic items and tries to figure out how they work and how to deal with it. And thankfully it incorporates his sighted gift. When he's gathering information to identify or detect mystic forces, add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. So maybe there's this moment where he kind of has that extra focus in his eyes, and the pupils dilate a little bit more as he takes in the mystic energies and tries to scrutinize them and figure out, is there a way to kind of connect himself with this bottle? Um, so I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna roll wits with a
Okay.
+1. This is a gather information as he scrutinizes this bottle and tries to find the way to make that work. As the kind of color in the area continues, like it has like pulses of color that then like every time it gets that just like a little bit more desaturated with every pulse.
Mm.
It's almost like the color of the world is like every time I imagine almost like escape pods. Like every pulse is just a little bit more of the energy of this place escaping into other aspects of reality.
Mm.
Also, after this move, I want to see a little bit more about like we're not the only ones in this dream world. I want to get a
Yeah,
I want to get a
that's
chance.
what I was worried about.
Well, and I want to get a chance to represent that. Like, what's happening with them, and do we witness any of it? We've got these dream stalkers and everything. Like, are they freaking out? Like, what are they doing? Oh, by the way, when you see Flint, you would see that he has he's been holding this this hooded lantern that is currently shut. Like, there's a covering on where the light would come out that is closed. But he's been holding on to that. But anyway, let me do
So
this.
it's not shining any light?
It's not shining any light. We have some amount of ability to just kind of like see here in a sort of, there's like a glowiness to everything. So we've been able to see, but the light that would come from this lantern is not being released. Let's see.
Okay.
All right. That is exactly what we need. Not only did I get a hit, I got an opportunity, which is a critical hit, basically. So I think it's kind of obvious what that should be. Like, not only, I think since it's indeed an opportunity, like Flint should be able to figure out like a way to kind of like attune himself to this light, or to the bottle itself, and kind of attach his essence to it.
Nice.
And let me see what else I would get on a gather information with a strong hit, because I basically have that. Where's my thingy? There we go. So a strong hit, I'm looking at the wrong one. You discover something helpful and specific. The path you must follow or action you must take to make progress is made clear. Envision what you learn and take +2 momentum. So I get 2 momentum from that. I also get an additional 1 because of the way my sighted path works. So sitting pretty on that. I think if it had just been a strong hit, I'd know what we need to do to make that happen, but I wouldn't be able to just do it in this moment. But because we have a critical there, I think we need to figure out what it takes, but it should be something that I have the ability to do just right now. So I don't have an idea on what that is right now. I'm going to roll I'm going to roll some oracles to get an idea, like, how might Flint be able to... I'd like it to not be like just he pushes the magic button and it works. Like, I want something like specific that he might have to do to get inside there, and I don't know what that is yet. And as always, chat, if you have any ideas, please shout them out, and we're always happy to take suggestions. But for the action and theme table, we've got attack was the action that came up, which is a very interesting one here. The theme is resource. So what if it's a kind of like a sacrifice that has to be made? Like attacking, like that makes me think of the, having to burn something valuable to complete, to the gods type of thing. Like, not literally that, but it's the imagery that conjures for me. See, attacking a resource. Yeah, what if... And again, this was a critical hit, so I don't want it to be something that's like too painful. Like, it's not a bad thing. It's not like what he must do is this terrible cost. But, yeah, I think you'd have to make some kind of sacrifice of something. Oh,
Maybe he has to conjure up a painful memory, or...
Oh, that could be yeah, I like that thought. Because I was thinking, what if it's a type of thing where, this thing, as we know, it was an important memento to you. It was something that had a lot of sentimental value. And so,
Mm-hmm.
what if in order to cross over into that sentimental thing for you, he has to really focus on, the moment that we, the most kind of like the emotional peak of like the most recent emotional peak of our interaction, which would be that moment where he kind of turned his back on you and abandoned you, and like it's very painful to have to revisit, but like because it has that kind of very emotional connection,
Mm-hmm.
focusing on that kind of heightens that bond between us. It redraws it, which would allow his essence to go inside. So it's very painful to dwell on it, but yeah, maybe that's the sort of thing that kind of makes it all the more clear. So he goes. Flint gets very inward in that moment, and he kind of, I think he turns his back to you, and his shoulders slump a little bit, and his hand, like his brow rests in his hand as he conjures these images, and I think his shoulders start hitching a little bit, almost like he's got some. There's some soft tears happening. He feels really bad about what he did. He's having to like, in order to cross over, I think he has to like really dwell on it, and to a degree, like to like an almost magical degree, like really replay it and relive that moment.
Would it bring about feelings of losing his child,
That's a
or
good
do you
point.
think
There's a
you
couple.
think that would kind of
I think you're right that like that
elicit more of that
it
emotion?
probably would draw on that a little bit. The kind of comparisons there of he's been looking for this child the whole time. Now we learned a little bit about how we might find him in the sessions you were gone, but yeah. So I think it's got this whole resonance, and it brings out these tears. But then, while his back is turned to you, slowly his body starts taking more of a solid, just sort of human shaped form as his like feet rise up off the ground, and he turns into this kind of just more of an energy that seeps into the light. And like him and all the things he's carrying, like the lantern and just all of his possessions, kind of come into this light that seep inside, and it changes color to more of a the blue that we would ordinarily see with his inside his eye. There's kind of like a blue sparkle that
Oh
doesn't like
yeah.
glow, but like you can make it out in the like sclera of his eyes when he's using that magical vision. It's like these. It's almost like there's glitter, very faint glitter. If you're like looking in just the right place, you can see kind of these blue sparkles, and I think it takes on the light inside takes on a little bit of that quality where it used to be this. I think we described it as kind of a pure white light before. I can't remember, but whatever color it is, if you look really closely, it has those kind of sparkling effects as he enters inside. And I think that is a mark of progress for his I will find a new body and rejoin the physical world. The problem is he definitely doesn't have a new body yet.
He's halfway there.
Well, here's the problem. When I made that vow, we, like everything else, we gave it a rating, which is more or less indicative of how long do we want this to occupy our screen time? Like, how long do we want to devote to really solving this problem? And at the time, that felt like a very important, like, I want this to take a while. I want this to really take some doings to get back. Like, I could be trapped here for a while, because I didn't anticipate where this would go. As a result of that, this will only fill in one of my progress boxes, because we've rated it pretty high. So, on a meta level, we know as players, like, this is one step, but I think Flint is going to be stuck with you as just a sort of, like, in this light form. I think he'll be able to communicate with you, but I don't think he'll have a physical presence for quite a while. We're gonna have to
That's
find.
what I'm thinking.
We're gonna have to find ways to get him a new body and get him from this vessel into that body, and like that's gonna take a lot of doing. So, with that being said, I will fill in that one progress that I have made on that. This is definitely a milestone. Let me make that the full Asterisk.
He's gonna get so claustrophobic.
Itty bitty living space. Oh, that also reminds me that one of the stats that we actually share is our supply stat. I had 3, you had 2.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to just basically average them out and round down, which means we'll both share a +2 supply. Oops,
Okay.
wrong one. So let me just set that. It was something that earlier in the game I did not do correctly, but now I know. So we have a +2, and yeah, I mean, at this point, you have this tether. You can go back at any time. Like, I don't personally see it as I don't see any noteworthy challenges standing in the way, given, like, we didn't have any kind of miss that led us to this. I think you can escape this dream realm if you so choose, as basically in the same way you came in. Like, the magic is set up so that there's no real complication to it.
Okay, I think it's just a matter of like gripping the pendant and
just kind of willing it to be.
Yeah.
The pendant does the heavy lifting. Cool. So then, yeah, we there's probably a bit of a like vertigo effect as like your mind goes back into a body that is Oh, here's the interesting question. So
body. Crap.
I didn't think about that either. Your body would presumably be where we left it. In the skeleton room. I did not think about that. I forgot that, like, sure, like, your form in the dream world would move on to somewhere else, but yeah, we should...
I didn't think of that before I went in either.
I didn't, yeah.
Oops.
I think we should roll on an oracle to find out, like, I don't think the stakes are, and the skeletons ate you and you're dead, game over. Like, that's not on the table, because that's boring. We're not going to be like, yeah, you fucked up, and game over. And now Flint's going to be stuck there forever in a bad ending. But I think there is a range of possibilities here of what could have happened. And they range in how good or bad they are.
Because they were magic skeletons, like alive by magic, as soon as I like collapsed after switching over, it's almost like if they see, if a predator sees something play dead, they're just like not gonna go after it.
I was thinking about that. I was also thinking that there's a chance that they were made as this after effect of the magic he did to open up this ability for you to go in, and there's a chance once you went in that maybe they didn't really last all that long afterwards, because that sort of magic that had kind of closed, the keeping it open.
Right. Yeah, I definitely want to check back on him.
Well, let's roll on it. Let's use an oracle here to find out a little bit about, like, what is this scene when we get back to it. I buy the idea that they wouldn't, like, you would have basically been playing dead, they wouldn't have been interested in you anymore. And they had kind of turned to Muko anyway. So why don't we have this oracle represent, like, what is the state of Muko and how much do we know about it? So, scrolling down here. We have a few ways that we can do this. We can, and I think the way that makes the most sense is, let's have a series of questions, you and I. And each time we're going to rate these as, like, how likely they are to, like, be a yes. And then we'll roll and see which things are true. So I think the first question that's pressing on our mind is, is Muko alive? I think that's the big one, right?
It'd be awesome if you were.
I would rate it as, at best, unlikely. Possible, but he was pretty frail. And, like,
I'm hoping because I have more questions.
Oh, there might be all other questions about like we don't. That still opens up ideas of like, you know, how long did he let? You know, what happened along the way? Um, but does that make sense to you as well? That it's probably unlikely. Our options are almost certain, likely, 50-50, unlikely, and small chance.
Let's go 50-50. I really I wanna ask him. I wanna ask him how we get Flint
Okay.
to a more permanent
If
state of being.
if you like the idea of it being 50-50, I'm willing to budge on that. It's only a one category difference. So we'll do 50-50. There's even odds that he was able to, once he let go of that magic, have enough bolstered strength to escape, or potentially it's indeed just once he let go of it, you know, they immediately collapsed because indeed they were made through that same magic. Like one of those two things happens and he's able to survive this. So on a 51 or greater, I'm gonna roll a D100 here. 51 or greater, yes, he is alive. There we go. That almost didn't roll right, but that is an 83, so he is alive.
Yes.
In fact, he would have been alive even if we had rated that as unlikely. So, so
Mm-hmm.
either way, no matter which category we used, he's alive. He managed to survive. The next question I think I have is he still in this room? Because that definitely took you some time to get through to Flint. And I imagine time works a little bit differently in the dream worlds. Like we knew he was unaware of how much time had passed and was surprised when he heard it had been 1,000 years. So that's the next question is he still here? I think that's again probably a 50-50. Like how long he'd wait around here. Because again, we don't know, like, maybe it's been a long time for us as well.
Hope not too long.
I hope not, but we don't know.
Maybe I aged, like...
I don't think it's been 1,000 years like he did, but I think it could still be, like...
Maybe it's several days.
Exactly, like it could have easily been days without us knowing. So, again, 51 or greater, yes, he's still here.
Okay.
35, he is not. So he's not still here. Do you have any questions to figure out about like what happened with his situation here that we can preferably think?
I was just thinking like why did he choose to leave? But he's probably hungry
I was gonna say
thirsty.
It could be other questions about the situation that don't involve him as well. Like indeed, like how long it's been. Just a few things to help us set an understanding of like, you know, what is the nature of this reality we've come out into. Since I don't have any strong preferences. Yeah. So yeah,
I don't know how long it's been, and yeah.
Okay.
What the state of my body is like.
So one way we can do that is we can basically make an impromptu table here, set a few options, and or I guess we can envision two options. Rate one as likely and roll on the table below to see if it's true. If not, it's the other. So let's think of two options for how long it's been. And we'll figure out which one is the likely option. Option one, I think, is that it's been probably a few days. And that's probably the likely one. And I think the unlikely one is it's been significantly longer. Like, no, again, not like 1,000 years, but what if it's been like a year?
Oh, jeez.
And I think that's the unlikely option. But it's interesting to me that that's on the table. Do you agree with that being kind of like the stakes and like that's on the table as one of the options? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, if that happens, God, I want it to happen just because like as we recall, we went into this because like there was that disaster coming for this town, which like will
I
definitely
was thinking that
will
too. Yeah.
definitely have happened by the time a year has passed. Like a few
Oh,
days,
geez.
maybe not, but like we'll get to walk out and see.
What if the caves got flooded?
I don't. That's true. It was supposed to be this whole flooded thing. So yeah, we're setting. So likely as it's just been a few days.
What if I can't get back because my body's gone?
I mean, no matter what, you'll be back. Like we've already established that is true. Now we're just figuring out what that looks
That's
like. You know, what are the facts about that? Okay, so on a 26 or greater, because this is likely 26 or greater, it's just been a few days. But if it's under that, if it's 25 or under, it's been something on the order of like a year. Let's see. God, I want so badly for it. Yes! Oh, it's only a 12. It's been a year.
Oh my god.
Oh, thank you, Dice. It has been on the order of a year that we were inside there. Time just gets weird. And so, yeah.
But how would we know that? We wouldn't know that right away, right?
We'll know. We wouldn't know as characters, but we as players, because it'll help us inform how we describe everything else. As players, we know it's been about a year. But I agree.
Okay.
There's no way that we come out and be like, smells like it's been a year. Like, we don't know that. But all the more it makes sense why Muko is not there. And it's the same reason why we as characters don't know he's alive. I mean, shit, I've never even met him, but we as players know he's alive and out there in the world somewhere. He's not written out of our story.
Maybe he moved my body to like a safer spot, like before he left.
Well, that's an interesting idea. Why don't we could roll an oracle on that to find out. That sounds like a likely thing.
I feel like it would have.
Yeah. Let's have that as likely. Like, there's a chance he was just thinking of himself too much and, like, and you seemed a really capable person and just would have been like, she'll get back when she gets back. But I think it likely would probably set you up in somewhere a little bit nicer as a kindness to repay for what you did for him. So, yeah, let's see. He did not. Yeah, I think it's probably more that. Like, he's still just too frail and confused from, it's been 1,000 years, and he's just got other things on his mind. So we indeed come back in this prison where you were. Okay. You're on the ground in the area kind of between all the cells. I think that there's still, let's see, I think there's still the kind of like the bones sort of scattered in what you remember to be the cell he was in. They're sort of like all scattered by the door. And yeah, you come out of here and there's I think the pendant no longer has a glow to it because I think it's got the sparkles that are now kind of floating in just like what looks like empty air. It's almost like really, really, really tiny blue fireflies that are kind of just sparkling a little bit inside this empty bottle, but there's no longer the light of like you can just pass your way through to the dream world and back.
And I check it just to make sure it's still safe.
And I think you'd hear Flint's voice in your head.
Yeah, I feel like it would.
Say, in order to not write me out as a character for however long this takes, like, this is going to be my way of continuing to interact with the game. I think I can still kind of see beyond the veil, and like I can see things with my terrible wits, and I can try and figure things out. I don't think I can otherwise. Actually, maybe this is one last question that we can ask the Oracle. Do you think I can speak out loud from this, just kind of like almost like it pulsates a little bit more and there's like a voice that comes from the bottle?
That's kind of what I imagine is happening.
How likely
anyone can hear him?
How likely do we want to rate that?
I'll say it's pretty likely.
Likely? Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a 50-50.
Oh, yeah, that makes more sense. I want it to be likely, but it makes more sense to be 50.
I think we got like a 50-50 here. Maybe I can only communicate to you in your head. Maybe I can speak out loud in just kind of there's just I'm just kind of an energy being now and my voice is there.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So 51 and up. I can speak to whomever out loud. 50 and lower, it's just a mental thing that we've got. 41. It's just the two of us.
Okay.
Just the two of us.
Somehow we're interconnected through whatever
Yeah,
happened.
I mean, the magics are still there, and like it's that connection that we had to forge in order to get inside to begin with, that kind of reliving that moment that tied us emotionally, keeps us in a kind of mental contact. Not everybody had that bond. So yeah, I'll still be able to interact with the world to some degree, but not verbally with everybody else. I'm gonna have to, you kind of are my temporary body in a sense. Not that I puppet you, but in the sense that like my limited ability to exert physical influence on the world all has to come through things that you do. And of course, at any given moment, you could either put down or potentially lose this pendant, depending on things that happen in the story. And I'm really interested in exactly, like, I'm very interested in that story of how this will all happen. But let's get ourselves to a nice stopping place. We got about 20 minutes left. I, at the very least, want to find out, like, what does it look like outside? What happened in this place?
Yeah.
Because the calamity, as we mentioned, has definitely happened by now. And then there's some cleanup things I'll want to do on my character sheet. Like, I was originally doing a journey to the fortune teller, but that wasn't a vow. That was just a journey I was taking, which is now... Well, I guess it's technically not irrelevant. So you hear Flint's voice in your head, which says to you... Do you still want to talk to the fortune teller?
I grab my pen. Wait, wouldn't the fortune teller be like dead at this point because they were part of that dream world that was falling apart?
I think I think we can roll in an oracle for that to find out if they are or not. And also, I guess we wouldn't know. But
we wouldn't know. Yeah,
we wouldn't know. But I, as a player, have been envisioning it as like Flint. They kind of have a bit of a foot in both worlds. Like, there's sort of a some kind of existence on both sides.
Okay.
That I think they've been there long enough and have enough of a kind of weird power that there's some kind of physical presence on this side as well. Sort of.
Okay.
I think it's far weaker in this world. And indeed, potentially it's just dead from that energy being gone. So how should we rate that? Or should we even know before we get there? Like, maybe that's the type of thing that we should find out when we reach where they would otherwise be.
Yeah, because they don't even know. I feel like once Grae gets back, she notices something's different. But
Well,
no, maybe not. Maybe, yeah. They wouldn't. Never mind.
Well, he asked that
That
question
was only
of
if
you
they're...
do you still want to go to the fortune teller?
Okay. That's up to you, Flint. I mean, I honestly want to just leave this cave. But I think we suffered enough damage.
I can understand that. I won't drag you any more down into these depths. Let's leave.
Okay, let's go.
So, yeah, this was an area that we described as being more towards the entrance. Like, because you found this side path on your way kind of back out the mine, as we were describing. And now that there's no longer that pull trying to bring you into the dream world, because there, at this point, probably isn't even a dream world anymore.
Yeah, they have that clarity back.
Yeah, so I don't know that there's much in the, like, I don't think we have to make any rolls to get out of here. I think there's a little enough distance to cross that we can probably, cut to the shot of us, leaving the mouth of this mine and just finding out what happened as we get back into this town.
I wonder if we see the flood upon leaving the cave.
Oh, probably, yeah, I think you're right. I think midway through, we're probably, as you're, in progress, and there's probably this rising like flooded amount. Like it eventually gets to the point where you're like wading out. Indeed, like there's I think there's water that gets yeah, you have to kind of wade through in this as you're heading out of here. Wait, that wasn't like that before. How
long have we been gone?
I think we like basically say it at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
how long were we in there? Oh
I
god,
have no idea.
Grae, I think it's happened. I think we were in there a lot longer than it seemed.
I think you may be right.
And then yeah, I think there's that moment where like you finally kind of wade enough through to get to the mouth of the cave, and we can just see the full on devastation of like I think it's bad, and like clearly just
whole valley.
I think it's just like yeah, valley utterly flooded. You know, all sorts of the remnants of the buildings and stuff we saw on the way in have just been like washed away. It's it's desolation there. There's like frameworks of rotting wood, and I think it's a lot of the buildings there are now covered in it's kind of it's a swamp at this point basically, and there's a lot of like vines and stuff that are covering up on the building side. I think that there is there's like mosquitoes all in the air, and probably other like if it's been a long time here, there may well be, given that this is a place full of beasts, there may be other not very nice creatures kind of lurking underneath the surface of this water that I imagine it is like probably at least like probably a little bit over your hips, like midway up your torso would be my guess of like how high this is. Like it's a lot of water. It's spread out over just a large area. And yeah, so the flood has happened. Where do we go from here? It was admittedly never actually a vow we had. It was something we were interested in exploring, but we never made any vows about it. We never truly committed to exploring and solving this problem.
Oh, being a wayfinder, I wonder if I would know by the position of the sun or the shadows what time of year it was.
Oh.
Or about what time of year it was.
Yeah, why don't we make a gather information roll with that? And we can see how well you
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. There's your Wayfinder asset doesn't have any abilities that'll directly help this, but it definitely sets the fiction for like why that all makes sense. So yeah, Grae is like looking up at the sun and the clouds and using all sorts of just survival skills to get that sense of like, babe, where's the, as you were saying, where's the sun in the sky? Where's the how?
Why is the sun lower in the sky than
Exactly.
normally should be?
Let's see how this works. We'll give you information on the time of year. All right, so this is a wits roll. You've got 2 wits.
Okay.
Boom. Oh god, a complication. This is like a critical fail. The opposite of that opportunity we had before. And in fact, there's a kind of an optional rule that I tend to go with, which is you use the value of the dice to get an idea of like how severe it is. So the higher the dice, the worse it is, and we rolled double 9s. So it's bad. So on to gather information. First of all, it's a miss. So your investigation unearths a dire threat or reveals an unwelcome truth that undermines your quest. So it sounds to me like it's probably like whatever the answer is, it's either like really bad summer or really bad winter. Like one of those extremes where like clearly we're about to face something very harsh. And with the Ironlands being as they are, and the rule book even says like the Ironlands winters are harsh. I feel like you recognize we've emerged in what's going to be the law, like a long cold winter, and like the sun is still up right now, so it's not the worst, but like once it goes down at night, like it is going to get utterly frigid here. It's about to get bad, and
And we're not dressed for it.
exactly. I think we've got we're right about that time that I think this is a good stopping point.
Okay.
I think we have that realization of let's just give it a little bit more of let's twist the knife just a little bit more. So like it's a long hard winter, but like full on complication. How can we make this just that little bit worse? It could just be a matter of just how severe that winter is supposed to be, and like
Maybe it's really windy and it's just
yeah, like as you're looking at it, like it all just kind of picks up around you and it becomes clear like this is about to get like Arctic. And just really bad. There's maybe like a snow starts coming in the process, and yeah, it's about to just
blizzard.
Yeah, I think so. Like I think you not only get, yeah, maybe that's it. Like it's not only that it's winter right now, but like you see kind of on the horizon like this front coming in of like, oh shit, no, like it's winter and that's a blizzard over there coming in.
It's bad.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it is about to get really hectic and windy and snowy. We don't have a lot of time to prepare. And that's what
And the flood is all frozen over.
it's going to be anyway, yeah. That's what we'll go out on, is the winter has come. So yeah, we've got us back together. There's things that we still have yet to explore, like at some point we're gonna have that scene where like basically we've made camp and you're asking your pendant all about like, no, seriously, what happened? Like we gotta finish out that vow for you.
Yeah.
We gotta get ourselves resupplied and ready for winter, which I don't know how we're gonna do that in time. It's gonna be a challenge. We gotta get me a body, obviously, and we gotta still make our way to those pillars. There's a lot left to explore, but we're back in the real world, and in this kind of wrap-up segment, I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to do moving forward to represent. I want to get a more clear sense of the Ironlands. I was watching another actual play lately, Adam Koebel's actual play, and he was doing things a little bit more by some of the things that are in the book that I've been overlooking. Namely, that there is indeed a map of the Ironlands with all these different areas, and he was kind of plotting very specific settlements where they are and knowing a little bit more about them, and like, you know, the world just felt that little bit more real. I don't think we have enough of a sense of like the real physicality of this place yet. And I think next time, now that we're back in kind of like the Ironlands and we're probably going to be taking some journeys going from place to place, I want to set a little bit more clearly like, you know, here's where we are. This is what this area is like. You know, the pillars are over in this part. What's that like? Like, we should maybe take some time next time to get a better sense of the world around us. No, I don't want to take a long time doing it, but make just like a rudimentary map.
Okay.
And
that sounds like fun.
Yeah. And then also, we have these bonds that we elected to do the option, as I often do, of not placing, like maybe assign one of them at when we started, but leave the other ones open to just like figure out along the way. I just want to make sure we don't forget about them. We haven't interacted with a lot of other characters yet, so it's not really important. But as we go to other communities and talk to other people, I just want to make sure we remember to like place ourselves in this world and have a history with people.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we don't lose that out and don't have it too focused on... I don't want the camera's focus to be so narrow that it's really only the two of us and then a world around us. Let's make an effort to make sure that we populate this place with interesting people. Now, part of the reason that hasn't happened is the first town we ran into, we rolled and found out it was abandoned. So, like...
Oh, yeah, when we ran into, what's his face?
I can't remember his name, but, yeah,
Dougwit.
Yeah, our socially awkward guy.
He's Dougwit.
So part of it is that we just haven't had a lot of opportunities, but I want to make sure to not lose track of that and like really ground ourselves in the people and places of the Ironlands.
Yeah.
Get to know
Maybe
them.
we'll run into Muko again.
I think we should. I don't know when it's going to happen or where. I think he would be a great person, like looking ahead and kind of thinking meta level. You know, you you want as a character to continue to get to know people and forge bonds, I think he'd be a great option for you, especially because you've already kind of you've had that bonding moment of healing him and working through this magic and everything. I think he'd be a great contender for, the Forge a Bond move is when you spend significant time with a person or community, stand together to face hardships or make sacrifices for their cause, you can attempt to create a bond. So, yeah, I think he's a great contender for that if you wind up running into him again. So I, as a player, want to find ways to make that happen. He's an interesting character, and I think your relationship with him could be interesting, especially with the way it ended. Like, you left him behind. He was okay, but you left him behind. Now, granted, he also basically told you to do that to begin with, so
yeah.
I don't think he's going to be like,
hopefully he's not mad at me.
I don't think he's going to be like, how dare you, when he told you to do that to begin with. But it's an interesting dynamic that I want to get a chance to explore. So anyway, yeah, I think that's it for this time around. Why don't we do our sign-off stuffs and everything? Blink, tell us all about you and where we can catch you and what we can see.
I am Blinkin' Firefly on Twitch, and I sing lullabies and play ukulele and this thing right here. Come check me out.
I have one of those
sing you to
things
sleep.
too. She plays it much better. But I've also got one of these things, this cello here. And I'm primarily a cello streamer at twitch.tv/midnightjester8. I do 4 hours of cello requests every Sunday night from 5 to 9 p.m. Pacific time. And that's most of what I do around here, but I also have a hell of a lot of fun doing this. And I'd love to just continue to do more and more RPG streaming. I love it so much. I look forward to it every time. And yeah, obviously this stream happens 8 to 10 p.m. Pacific time every Tuesday. And if you didn't catch a whole session or want to go back to the backlog or whatever, they're available on my YouTube page, which is down below. On YouTube, I'm just Midnight Jester, not Midnight Jester 8. But all the videos go up on there, usually within a little over a day of when the session is done. So you should be able to catch those on Wednesday evenings. But anyway, this has been our Ironsworn stream session 7. I've been titling this one, and certainly for this section of it, Dreams of the Dark. It felt very relevant for where we were at last time, but we'll have to figure out like this new section, which is, I feel like, going to be very winter themed, which is another thing that I want to make that very prominent in this next arc of our campaign. Like, I want to really feel the difference of it being winter. I want that to flavor like the way we describe basically everything, and how the people exist, and what the road is like. Everything should be painted with the brush of winter, and I think that the title of the next arc should reflect that. So the two of us will figure that out between now and then. But anyway, sounds good. Hope you've had a good time, and I hope to see you around next Tuesday, or earlier for some of my other stuff. But for now, I'm gonna bid a good night to you all, and you should. One last thing. This is a free game available at ironswornrpg.com right now. I love it so much. It makes for some very compelling stories and is so well put together, and it's available for free. You can get all of it right now at ironswornrpg.com. Fantastic game. Great community behind it as well. Highly encourage you to pick it up and play a game of your own. Tell me about it. I want to know what kinds of adventures you run. While we're doing a co-op game, it's designed you can play it all by yourself. I've done it. It's a lot of fun. You can just do it as GM and player all wrapped into one. Play a game. Play a session of it. Tell me what happens. I want to know. And the best place to tell me about it would be on my Discord, which is down below. But anyway, for now, see you, everybody.